Hey, eighth grade here. It is Tuesday already. Whew. Feels like just a few minutes past for me, but weird. So today we are factoring polynomials. We're doing this to solve when you have something that looks like this, and especially when you get down here and they equal 0. And there are a few cases we need to look at for this, but basically this is the opposite of the FOIL method. This is going the other way. Let's see. I like to say Floy. So that would be IOLF. IOLF, maybe. Yeah, there you go. That's just great. IOLF. Yeah, perfect. So anyway, it's the opposite. So we're going to end up looking for something that looks like this. Now in this one, everything here is positive. Now that's nice because since everything's positive, that means everything in here is going to be positive. And if you think about the first things, the first one here is x squared. So that means there's going to be an x there and an x there. And now you have the 24 and the 14x. If you know how the last parts work, we need to find numbers that multiply to get 24. And then those same numbers, since in the outside-inside positions, they have to add up to 14. And that'll make a little more sense when I show you this, but you got to start thinking of things that multiply to get 24. And then if you add those two numbers together, do you get 14? So for example, 2 and 12. 2 times 12 is 24. And if you add them together, you get 14. Well, how does that work? Well, if you do the FOIL method, x times x gives you that x squared right there. Then, like I do, I like to do the lasts. 2 times 12, that's 24. That gives you that right there. And then the middle, you do the inside, 2 times x, 2x, outside, 12 times x, 12x, 2x, 12x, 14x. Gives you the whole thing. Okay? That's what you're looking for. It gets a little trickier when you have something that's negative, if they're both negative, or if one's negative, and you'll see that in a second. So now number 3, let's do number 2. We'll do them in order. What a switch. Now, in number 2 here, we have to get negative 30. Negative 30. Now, the only way to multiply and get a negative number is to have one of them be positive and one of them be negative. So that means one of these is going to have to be negative, one will have to be positive. All right? Now I have a y and a y. So they're both going to be y squared, or that'll give you the y squared. So negative 30. I'm thinking you could do 2 and 15. That would give you negative 30. But negative 7. Now, if this is negative, and one of these has to be negative, and if this is negative, that means the bigger number needs to be negative. It needs to be bigger because that's how you're going to get a negative number in the middle. But 15 minus, if it was negative 15 and positive 2, that's a negative 13. So what about 10 and 3? Now we'll look at both things. If it was negative 3, then it would be 10 minus 3. That would be positive 7y. But in this case, it's negative 10 and a positive 3. Negative 10, positive 3. So let me put that up here. Negative 10, positive 3. So negative 10, positive 3. Let's see if that works. So I know y times y is y squared, and negative 3, or 3 times negative 10 is negative 30. That works. Now in here, negative 10y plus 3y should give you the negative 7y. So if this part's negative and this is negative, then the bigger number has to be negative and the other one's positive. Right? Don't worry, there will be another one like that. We'll see. So like this one, for example, this number here is negative, but this is positive. Now we know if it's negative, the only way to multiply to get a negative is for one of them to be positive, one of them to be negative. But in this case, since this is positive, the bigger number has to be positive. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to use 7 and 3. So 7 should be the positive one, and the 3 should be negative. Because I know I'll get 7 times negative 3 is negative 21. And when I add the 7n and the 3n, negative 3n, that's 7n minus 3n, that's 4n. It's positive. So you've got to look here first and see what you have. So far, we've had one where both things were positive. We've had a couple where one was positive and one was negative. Well, there's only one more choice. In number 4, we have a positive 50, but we have a negative number here. Now, if you have a positive number here and a negative number here, the only way you can have anything negative related to get you that is if they're both negative, because that's the only way you can multiply. And so I'm pretty sure that this is n minus 10 and n minus 5. And let's see, that would be n squared. Here's the positive 50, negative 5 times negative 10, positive 50. And then negative 10n, negative 5n. That's negative 15n. So, things to remember here, if everything's positive, hey, no problem. Everything's positive. If you have negative at the end, then one's positive, one's negative, and you have to look and see the bigger number. Is it positive or negative? If you have a positive here and a negative here, they're both going to be negative. All right, you'll come across this a lot, so don't expect it just to sink in totally perfectly yet. Now, for the solving of equations, basically after you factor it, then you just have to set everything equal to 0 and see what it is. And some of these, of course, we'll go right for we'll do a couple of them, because like I'm looking at this one here, where you have a negative number here and you have a negative there. So I'm going to multiply, and 72 for me is 9 and 8, right? X, 9 and 8. And I know that one of them has to be negative, because the only way to get negative 72 is if one of them is negative. And since this is negative here, the bigger one has to be negative. Minus 9 plus 8. Okay? Hopefully that makes sense. Now, to solve this, you have to set each of these parts equal to 0. Well, guess what? If you set them each equal to 0, you get an answer of x equals 9 and x equals negative 8. Yeah, wow, I get so excited by math, it just chokes me up. Okay. So hopefully that makes sense, because you take each one, you'd set x minus 9 equal to 0. You have to add 9 to both sides. X equals 9. All right? That's all they want you to do for the solving part. It's not really that much different. Oh, now, some of these, of course, like number 8, they're going to start the number over here. Well, this is no big deal, because if you move the negative 32 to the other side, nice, everything becomes positive. So you have x squared, 12x, and let's see, plus 32. Everything's positive. Woohoo, great. That must be 8 and 4. X plus 8, x plus 4, with my excellent handwriting. And, of course, you set them equal to 0. You set each one equal to 0. X equals negative 8. X equals negative 4. Number 10, x squared minus 10x plus 24. So that's positive. That's negative. And the only way I'm going to get a positive number right here with anything negative here is if both the numbers for multiplying are negative. And I'm pretty sure it's x minus 6, x minus 4. negative 6x, negative 4x, that's negative 10x. And of course, set them both equal to 0. You have x equals 6, x equals 4. All right. Let's go through the regular stuff here and see anything weird. It says confirm your answers using a graphing calculator. You can, if you think about it, you're finding out for each thing. You can do this on Desmos too, or the graphing calculators. The whole idea on these is, even if it's a y, really, what these are, they're x's. And so if you type these into Desmos or a graphing calculator, like these, well, no, this one, if you set it equal to 0, you're trying to find out where x is 0, where it crosses the y-axis, where y is 0. So, like, if I go back up to the others, well, let's just do one and I'll explain, I wonder if I could, let's just do one here. Look for an interesting one. Like number 18, that's two, I'm not going to do another even one for you. Let's do 19. So this one, they have everything in the weird order, m squared minus m, because, that's too confusing for students. They have to put it backwards just to, I don't know. So go through the steps. And I know this is negative and that's negative. Now, if that's negative, I'm going to have one of each. Plus, minus. And 42, I'm thinking 6 times 7. And if this is negative, the bigger one has to be negative. M. Ooh, getting things kind of crowded there. M plus 6, M minus 7. So if you set that equal to 0, and you think of these as x's, what you're saying is where y is 0. So, what will x be when y is 0? So you're finding two places where this will cross the x-axis. So if you put this thing as it's written in here, it should cross x at, let's see, m equals negative 6 and m equals 7. So it should cross, if you graph it on a graphing calculator or Desmos, it should cross x at negative 6 and positive 7. That's what they're saying about using the graphing calculator. Okay, so all these are the same. This one, again, make sure that you move everything to the same side. Do not try to factor it with stuff on this side. So 22, you've got to move some stuff. 26, 28, you have to move stuff to the other side because you can't solve these and factor it unless you have a 0 over there. All right, let me erase that. There we go. All right. Ooh, oh my goodness, we're way up there. Okay. And what number are we going up to today? Ooh, they must be trying to get trickier down there if they're having you factor twice. You are going to go through only number 40. It's like a walk in the park. 30. Triangle has an area of 36 square feet. If the height of the triangle is 6 feet more than its base, so the height, great, x plus 6. What are its height and base? So what they're saying is for 30, the height of the triangle, let's see, I think area is 36, and area of a triangle, that's base times height divided by 2, right? Okay, so base times the height divided by 2 equals 36, right? How does this relate to what we're doing? Well, first, get that off the bottom. Multiply both sides by 2. Now I'm going to have x squared plus 6x equals 72. Now it should look like what we've done. You're going to move this to the other side, and that'll be negative 72. And then you've got to figure out, how do you multiply to get 72 and have a positive 6 in the middle? Let's see. It's not 8 times 8 and 9. That's not going to work. 8 and 9. Gosh, too hard for me to think about. Good luck. I'm sure you figure it out. Just remember, one of them's got to be positive, one of them has to be negative, and the bigger one's positive. 32, they give you this. Yep, great. Length, there's length minus 45. Area of the field, well, that would be length times length minus 45. Great. And then it says area is 9,000. So it sounds like we're going to have L squared minus 45L. Make those capital L's so I can see what they are. And equal to 9,000. Okay, now I have to move that 9,000 to the other side. So that's going to be minus 9,000 equals 0, right? Okay, great. So this number's negative, and this is negative. That means one of each, positive and a negative, and whatever it is, they have to, the bigger one's going to be negative, and it has to multiply to get 9,000. Like 90 times 100. That's not going to do it. Gosh. I wonder if you'll ever figure it out. See how that goes. Those are your challenge ones. The rest shouldn't be too bad, hopefully. And, some of these, we should show one of these just because it has the other. The only thing they're doing here is throwing in another variable, which is no big deal, really. Like 35 here. Well, let's look at 33. That looks uglier. So here's what I know. I know everything here is positive. Great. I know 2 times 9 gives me 18. And 2 plus 9 is 11. So what this looks like is this. Q plus 9R and Q plus 2R. See if that makes sense. The only difference is that you have an R in each of these spots where we didn't have that before. Because Q times Q squared. 9R, 2R, 18R squared. Then you have 9QR and 2QR. There you go. That's really the only difference, is they're just throwing another variable in there and no big deal. The bigger thing I'm still thinking about is how to factor out 30 and 32, to be honest with you. All right. One more page. I want to look at 38 and 40 somewhere up here. 38. Find an expression for the perimeter of a rectangle with the given area. Find an expression. What does that mean? I want to see if it means anything other than just factor it. Find an expression for the perimeter. Oh, okay, I see. So, yeah, I need to understand what I'm reading. So for these, you factor it just like the others. You're going to get your two things. So if we look at number 39, I can show you. So, okay, this is negative. That's positive. That means the bigger one is positive. All right, so where'd my pen go? I do that all the time. You think I'd start figuring this out. So x plus x minus. Let's see. So it's got to be pretty close together because 13. So the negative one is bigger. 3 times 30. No. 90 divided by 5. What would that be? $90 divided by 5. So 5 and 18. Hey, 5 and 18. It's a miracle. Did I say the negative one is bigger? The positive one is bigger. So this is 18, and this is 5. Okay? Let's see if that makes sense, because 18 times 5 is the negative 90 part. All right? And 18x minus 5x will give you the 13x. So that's the factored form of the area. Now, if I set those both equal to 0, you're going to get a side length of 5. The other one appears to have a side length of negative 18, but you know what? You can't have a negative side length. So your two side lengths are that. You have a side length of 18 and a side length of 5. And so you're supposed to figure out the perimeter. Well, if you have, you know your two sides. So let's just do it as it is. You have an x plus 18, an x plus 18, an x minus 5, and an x minus 5. Okay? So 1, 2, 3, 4x. Okay, great. I've got the 4x part. Right? I'm just doing perimeter now. I'm adding together all the sides. 4x and then 18, 18, 36, 36. But minus 10 would give you plus 26. So there's your perimeter. So you do actually keep the minus parts in there for the perimeter. That's the same thing for this. Factor it, and then you'll know the lengths of the two sides, and then just add them all together. You double them, add them all together, just like that. All right. And then, I'm going to have you skip 40 because I'm going to do 40 with you. That's like into the next lesson when I get back. So you're going up through 38. There you go. Do the best you can. We can cover any questions you have when I return, for better or worse, tomorrow.